Rosemary's Son. And if you're listening to us on Facebook, thank you so much. Don't forget you can call in at 844-790-8255. That's 844-790-8255. Besides our live stream on Facebook, you can listen online at americamatters.us and on the TuneIn app from your phone or tablet. Just search America Matters. You don't have any excuse for not listening or watching us. I am here with my ever so loving and wonderful and understanding co-host, Janice Hermson. And, of course, we couldn't do this without our awesome engineer, Craig Moss. They are both broadcasting from the studio in Reno, Nevada. And I am at my studio in a very secret place. Oh, my God. Someone's messing around with my script here. And I'm looking around because I can't get on right now. And they are just messing around. I'm here, and believe it or not, they just messed it up for me. I can't even get on to look at what I'm doing here. So I'm in my secret location in wonderful Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm at the wonderful Tropicana where we're having some issues with the actual show itself. And, you know, to me, I got to be honest with you, it was a large headache trying because we had some technical difficulties and whatnot. So we are doing this right now on the phone, and it's been a little bit of a nutcase thing, but I got to be honest, Janice, thank you for trying to help me. And I had the actual thing that I had because you said you sent it, but never got the attachment to it. So I'm sitting there, so I'm sorry if I messed up anything.
Oh, you did just fine. No worries.
It's been a little bit of a crazy thing, and I had this thing in front of me, and then I guess Craig's trying to figure this out. The wonderful engineer that Craig is, I love him, and he's trying his very best to make sure we try and get this thing on the right way. But I couldn't even go ahead and print anything out, so that's the kind of issues that we've had. You know, it's when everything can go wrong, it does go wrong, and that was my issue today. You know, so it was what it was. So that's all I can tell you. What's going on, Janet, on your end?
Well, I want to make sure that everyone knows that we have two incredible gentlemen joining the show today. Gary Grossman is a multiple Emmy Award-winning television producer and an author, and ever so much more. We'll learn more about him in the second half. And Ed Fuller is a hospitality industry leader, educator, and author, and they both wrote Red Hotel, and they're going to join Basile in the second half. So if you have any questions or comments, make sure that you punch those in.
Absolutely. And I'm still seeing poor Craig is trying to work feverishly on this thing, trying to make it work. But let me give you a little hint, too. As far as the viewers and listeners, you guys aren't seeing me right now, and I'm sorry about that. But for those of you who do follow me, I want to thank the wonderful people, the District Convention in Phoenix, Arizona, and also in Portland, Oregon, at the Order of AHEPA District Conventions. They were fantastic. But right now, we did our first show last night at the Tropicana Laugh Factory, which was absolutely fantastic. Earl David Reed, very, very, very funny cat, was featuring for me. And then Al Kaz, very, very, very gentleman as well. He wound up being with us as well. Just a great show from the top to bottom, and just a lot of fun. It really was. So I'm excited about the rest of the week. And then, of course, next week is the Magic Week. I'm going to be over back in Reno, Nevada.
I know. Won't that be fun?
I'm excited. I get to come in studio where we could probably get all this fixed and get everything taken care of. So I'm excited about that. And then for those of you who are also wondering, hey, Basile, what's the rest of the stuff you're doing? Well, the 24th of June, besides the 18th or the 23rd at the Laugh Factory at Silver Legacy in Reno, Nevada, on the 24th of June, the very next day, I'm going to be across the country at the Comedy Cabana in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. That's the 24th to the 30th. And then from there, July 5th and July 4th and 5th, I'll be at the Supreme Convention that we're having over in wonderful Chicago, Illinois for the HEPA. And I'll be the host and MC for that wonderful event. And then July 12th and 13th, I'll be at Cosby's Comedy Club in Newport News, Virginia. Now, the 13th, for all those listening, well, there's nothing else I can tell you, but the 13th is already sold out. That Saturday night is sold out.
Wow.
So if you want to come to Cosby's in Newport News, Virginia, July 12th, that Friday, they have some tickets available. So that's all I can tell you. So that was really about it with that. And, yeah, what can I say? I'm very popular. Chicks love me. Men love me. Children love me. It's just a beautiful thing all over.
Oh, and you love you.
Oh, yes. Well, and thing is, I'm very humble. That's the one thing.
Oh, absolutely. No conceit in your family. You've got it all, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, what else is going on, Janice?
Well, coming up, you've got some future guests. You want to talk a little bit about, we got Harry Basile booked for the 9th of July.
Harry Basile?
Yeah.
Did we already book him?
We did. He just confirmed for me. So we're just waiting on a couple of the other ones that are coming up.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that.
And I don't have that list in front of me, to be quite honest with you. That's the only sad thing. So, but don't worry, I'll figure as soon as we wind up. I don't even see the show itself, but in how much time we got. But
that's okay. You've got about 50 seconds left, so you got a little ways to go. I'll cut you off.
50 seconds. Oh my
I'll
goodness.
cut you off.
I'm doing all the talking, and I'm not saving anything for you. But there's so much more that we can discuss. But just in case, just let people know that. Again, you are listening to a pinch of Basile. You can call in. You can even text us. What's that magical text number, Janet?
Magical number, 775-237-2266. And the call-in, 844-790-TALK, which is 844-790-8255. So call us, write us, all those things. We'll be on Facebook eventually, and when we are, then you can comment there. All right.
Absolutely. And don't forget Gary Grossman, and Edward will be with us at the bottom of the hour.
There you go.
You got to do that commercial thing. We'll call you. This is a pinch of Basile.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now back to the show.
Hey, everyone. This is Dave. What's going on? I'll tell you what, when it can go wrong on my end, and it's all me, folks, it's not the wonderful engineering processor that we have, our wonderful engineer, but it's me. Evidently, I've been doing something wrong all my life, and it's paying dividends right now. This has been one of the craziest, wackiest things I've ever happened to me, but I'll tell you what, it's always entertaining, to be quite honest with you. So I am doing my very best to go ahead and to do everything I'm told. Janice, you tell me what I'm doing.
Well, what I'm going to tell you is that you did do everything right. And I thought that since we had so many issues we work on Skype, and I thought that would be a great thing for us to talk about because you didn't do anything wrong. And I want to mention that the same problem you're having right now is the one that you and I had when we were testing that out this morning. So we just can't hear you on Skype, and that's really the problem, and we don't know why.
Well, I'm looking at his image right now, laying on his bed in the hotel room. He's holding the USB plug in his hand. It's not plugged into the computer, so you think that might be an issue.
Well, do you want me to plug the microphone in now?
Yes, please.
Now. We love it. We love it. This is live.
This is live radio, folks, and I'm actually going to I'm going to get it so everybody else can see him being live too.
Oh joy,
yeah,
that'll be fun.
That.
That'll be fun. He is dressed, right?
Yes.
He's not wearing one of his little things that.
Well, I got to be dressed too, for God's sake.
Oh.
Hey, Basile, you can
I go ahead and pick this up now?
You can hang up the phone because we now have you on Skype.
And now we have an echo.
This has been the craziest thing I've ever done here, and I got to tell you, I'm putting my headset on, and this has been absolutely nuts. But you guys can hear me now?
We can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right.
Hello.
Excellent.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hold on. I see.
This is like
Can you hear
testing
me now?
1, 2,
Yes, we
3,
can.
Right?
Can you hear us?
Oh, apparently he
Can
cannot.
anyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
He cannot hear. You better chat with him
Hey,
and let
can
him
you
know
hear
that
Can you hear me?
Oh boy.
Can you hear us?
That's that evidently I'm not privy to. So I'm using.
Are you there now?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Oh, that's technology in action. How about that?
It's me controlling his computer from 453 miles away.
I want to tell you though that I am very happy to have this technology at my fingertips, and it's all me. To be quite honest with you, I was giving Craig all the credit, but folks, it's me.
Oh, I
who's
see.
been
Now it's
fixing
all you.
this.
Holding that cord in your hand up in the air while it should have been in the computer, right?
Listen, we did. How long did we go over this today? You and I tried. I said I think I might have some issues, and I don't know what the issues are, but I'm just letting you know.
Well, a good psychiatrist might work.
That's a great start.
Thank you very much. It's I love you too. Okay. So, let me see. Now I got to go back to my to the Word document that I was using, because I was using that for.
Yes, you have control of your
notes.
computer again. I'll let you control it the rest of the show.
And I
That could be
appreciate
dangerous,
that. I really do. Because he took the thing away, and I'm reading off the script that we basically have, and all of a
Yes.
sudden Craig just like takes it over. I'm going, I felt like
While he's reading.
I felt like Jerry Lewis all of a sudden. Hey, lady, and I'm like walking around. I felt like an idiot. So, but at least I can improvise enough to just get myself out of it. And like a true man that I am, I pass it off to Janice.
There you go. Good job. Good job. And it worked.
It did work indeed. It
There you
did
go.
work. So,
All right.
Yeah, so I'm excited. But you guys can hear me okay, pretty well?
Absolutely.
And we can even see you.
And that's even worse. Okay, so I feel terrible. I'm laying on my bed because you would think at a hotel you'd have a lot of different outlets and everything to deal with, but Tropicana, evidently they didn't believe in that. And so I have to move all this. They had it like kind of an extension over here, so I got my phone plugged in on one side charging, and then I had to come because I also had to have my computer hooked into as well. So it was a little bit crazy for me. So anyway, but I'm so excited and so ill prepared for our two wonderful guests. But I will be prepared. But I did get a chance to see some of the stuff between Gary Grossman and also
Ed Fuller.
Yeah, I mean, just unbelievable stories that they have written. And, they have a bunch of stuff that they put together. And you know how I love military suspense stuff. So. And espionage and anything to do with the political and also military type of things that go on around the world. And this new book, Red Hotel, I can't wait to get a chance to get my hands on it and
Well,
go
I
through
might
it.
might lend it to you if you're good.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Is it really? Because, I also love Tom Clancy, right?
Yes,
But Tom
yes.
Clancy is this real long, in-depth beginning that sometimes that first 2/5 of the book is
No.
like sometimes boring as hell.
You do not
But
get
once-
that with this book at all. No.
Really? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Nope. You'll like it.
I'm sure I will.
Yep.
Sure I will. But I'm excited about getting a chance to talk to him, and and he's my God, Gary Grossman is a multiple Emmy Award winner, and for various things that he's done in the past. So I'm just and I'm so happy he sees me at my best. With this show, to be quite honest with you.
Well, I had Gary on our What's the Story show, and we had some technical difficulties then as well. So I'm hoping, but it wasn't on our side. It was more on his side. So I'm hoping that this time everything will level off. Maybe we're done
I appreciate
now.
that.
Maybe
Yeah,
we're
I
done
really
now,
do.
right?
I'm sure. Yeah, it's all about Basile and his little issues that he's had. I don't even see a clock, to be quite honest with you. Is there even a clock that I'm supposed to be looking at?
Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah. Why would we want that?
Why would we care? Come on.
Jesus. Oh my God. So just let me know when we get close, about 10 seconds out, and say, hey, Basile, it's about that time. Would you mind?
I will do that for you. I'll keep you in line. Don't worry.
And I appreciate that. Guess what I found? I got a clock.
How about that? See, ask and you shall receive.
I'm getting emotional, to be quite honest with you. I'm not prepared for this.
So, Basile, I know you had to create a new password today, and I thought you might be interested in some of the most common names used as passwords in breaches. See if maybe, hopefully, you didn't use one of these. So 5 of the most common names that are used in passwords as breaches are Ashley, Michael, Daniel, Jessica, and Charlie. Now, I can understand Charlie, but Ashley? Really?
Oh, yeah. Ashley is a big-time security type of a password that is used. As a matter of fact, the military uses Ashley as their passwords on certain things to keep encrypted.
Well, that's the most breached, so good for them. There you have it.
No, I tell you what, man. I got a chance to see a movie a couple of years ago, and I forgot the name. It was with Bruce Willis, about how this kid who he's severely autistic, and they say that children who are and individuals who are severely autistic have special skills that they can rip through just about anything. And this kid wound up in this movie tearing apart an actual high what's the word I'm looking for? A high top secret encrypted type of a thing, a password that the kid just looked at it and told it what it was.
The movie's called Mercury Rising.
That's it. It was a great movie. And what did you think about that movie, Craig?
I loved it.
I did too. You know, I really, really enjoyed that movie, and I thought it was actually outstanding, to be quite honest with you. So I was like, all right, this is really, really cool. So what we're going to do is, talk about this movie, because I tell you, this Red Hotel really intrigues me. I get a chance to talk, and this is one of the reasons why I love doing this show, to be quite honest with you. I love doing shows like this, where we get an opportunity to speak to these authors, to go ahead and speak to people who have, because to break a book down, you really have to understand everything that you're writing about. And I don't mean that in a stupid way. I mean, you really, even when I wrote Athenian Love Affair, and I had to break down everything as far as, and my stuff was really simplistic, but it was still a very, very difficult thing to do all your research. And I love.
And then consider the fact that you've got both of them writing. So now they have to coordinate those thoughts.
Not only coordinate, but you have to agree with this person.
Yeah.
And to say, hey, how do you feel about this plot line if we wind up going in this direction? That's the part that really amazes me. How do two people, like when I write by myself, because I don't want someone telling me, hey, how about we go in this direction? You know.
Yeah, but don't the characters tend to just take you there? Sometimes you can't control where that story goes. It takes you there.
I agree. It really does. No, it really does. But there are times when, though, someone like I have a friend of mine. As a matter of fact, I was just texting beforehand, Jay Boyd. This guy can throw out 101 ideas, and I'll crap on 100 of them. But that one idea that he has is always fantastic. Yep. So never give up. But listen, folks, it's about that time again that we got to go ahead and break for a little word from our sponsors. So we'll be right back with a pinch of Basile. Stay tuned.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
Welcome back. You are listening to A Pinch of Basile, and we have been talking about all the different fun technical challenges you sometimes have when you travel. And Basile is in Las Vegas right now at the beautiful Tropicana, and having a few technical issues with his own computer trying to get access. We do have Gary Grossman with us, and Ed Fuller will be with us very soon. So as soon as we can get Basile back, we're going to start things going. But in the meantime, I'm going to talk a little bit about Red Hotel, which is the book that Gary Grossman and Ed Fuller wrote. I'm going to look for the heads up from my engineer there when we have Ed on the phone, and then we can start the interview and hopefully get Basile back to conduct this. But I've done a couple of interviews here and there, so I can probably do a little bit here. How are you doing, Gary? Oh, I guess there you go. Go ahead.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We have you.
Okay, great. Doing fine in Los Angeles. Thank you. We're having a heat wave that I guess is heading your way.
Yes.
And as they say, well, at least it's a dry heat. It's a horrible dry heat. I know it's not humid, but it's a horrible dry heat.
But I am originally from the Los Angeles area, and you really are lucky that it's dry this time around, because oftentimes it is not.
Absolutely true.
I'm going to call you on that one.
Okay.
But I do agree with you. It's been really hot here as well, and boy, that's too much. So I will be glad when winter rolls back around again.
You're not going to get a lot of people signing that petition everywhere, though.
No, I know that. I'm pretty lonely on that one, I'm sure. So why don't you tell us a little bit? I know we're trying to add in Basile and we're trying to get Ed in. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the book that you and Ed wrote, which is called Red Hotel?
Thank you. Happy to do that. Certainly, it's one of our great joys to talk about it after spending a year and a half writing. Red Hotel is largely, it's a fiction thriller. It's a geopolitical thriller, but a lot of it is based on Ed Fuller's own experience. Ed was the president of Marriott International, the international side of Marriott, for 22 years and 40 years with Marriott. And when I met Ed, it happened because a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, Bruce Fierstein, who's a James Bond writer. He wrote the first Pierce Brosnan James Bond books. And we're both, Ed and I, both friends with him for various reasons and connections. And Bruce said, you have to meet this guy, Ed Fuller. He's interested in collaborating with somebody on a novel. And I thought, after I heard Ed and his credentials, I thought, gee, that's great, but I've never collaborated with anyone on a political thriller, but tell me more about him. Well, he did, and we had the meeting, and in 30 seconds, I realized that Ed Fuller was as much in the anti-terrorism business as the hotel business.
Oh, wow. And I believe we might have Ed. No, we don't. Sorry. I thought we had him, but we don't. Keep going.
Okay. And the Ritz and Marriott hotels were blown up in Jakarta. Ed had to deal with getting his team out of Cairo at the fall of Mubarak, likewise out of Tripoli when Gaddafi fell. He had to deal with terrorists and cartel members and kidnappings. So I heard all of that in basically 30 seconds. So my first question to Ed was, well, who do you have on speed dial? When he told me, and I learned that it truly was a matter of what kind of international intelligence contacts do you have to make things safer, I realized we definitely could work together. So Red Hotel is this international story that begins with a bombing of a hotel in Tokyo, fictionalized, but we're really describing the situation in Jakarta that he experienced. And then it builds on that in a geopolitical spy world that takes us around the world and ultimately to Brussels. And the bad guys in this are bad guys who we read about every single day and hear about on the news and you report about. And those are the Russians who ultimately want to bring back their country to the manner that it existed in the Soviet Union with those border nations, the Eastern Soviet bloc nations, protecting them from NATO and Western Europe. Trouble is, a lot of those countries are in NATO now.
Right.
So the plot that runs through Red Hotel is really a Putin-esque character trying to unravel what had been put together ever since the fall of the Berlin Wall. And it goes back and forth in time. But the exploits, I can tell you, even though they're fictionalized, so many of them are based on Ed Fuller's real experience. And when he gets on, he'll have tips, travel tips, and what we should all learn and what we should do before we get on a plane and go almost anywhere.
Can you tell me, you had hotel bombings in your book, did it actually mirror anything in real life, like any real life attacks that...
Yes, great question. Well, the beginning does echo what Ed experienced in Jakarta, Indonesia. But it builds to a climax in Brussels. And in Brussels, I mirror another experience that Ed had, and it was again in Indonesia, with the planting of the bomb. It wasn't so much terrorists from the outside. It was a plant who worked in the flower shop, who had been there for years, in fact. And what I discovered in doing research with Ed and additional research and talking to experts and you know what the impact and what the success rather of a bomb sniffing dog or bomb sniffing dogs can be in finding bombs, they're not so good when things are hidden in freezers.
Oh, that's
They
true. Oh.
sniff things out. So if you imagine putting bombs in a flower shop in the cooler area, they're going to be overlooked. So we build towards, and it's not a spoiler alert, but we build towards a potential bombing in Brussels on the eve of an important meeting. And what the reason for that is all about a provocation. And that's based on real life and real experience, as are many of the other things that are in the book. I mean, Ed is just I hope he can plug in.
I know, they're trying.
Fascinating man. And to realize as I work with him, because I've written other political thrillers under a series called the Executive Series.
I was just going to ask you about that. That's funny that you bring it up.
Okay, well, thank you. Executive Actions, Executive Treason, Executive Command, and last August, Executive Force came out. And that's one series that I write from truly the comfort of my computer, with experts in the State Department and Washington and intelligence communities. But working with Ed Fuller's the real deal. He had a nonfiction book that he's written, a wonderful business book. I love it. And I keep recommending it to people in business. Sometimes they appreciate it. Sometimes they don't. And when they don't, I still send it to them. Ed's book is called You Can't Lead with Your Feet on the Desk.
Well, that's a good title.
That's exactly how he ran his operation in Marriott International. He went into the field. He built loyalty. He was concerned about safety. He developed the color code system that we use in Red Hotel, that we develop in Red Hotel. It's discovered and invented in the book. Well, in fact, Ed developed it. We have to be thankful that there are people who are paying attention to things. And we have to be, observant ourselves in a way that we never were before. What's the old saw? Or not so old. If you see something, say something.
Right.
We've got to do that today. He's made me smarter about travel, about where I sit in restaurants, facing out instead of facing walls.
I think a lot of military people have that sense about them just from their training, don't you?
Absolutely right. And Ed comes out of the Army as well, served in Vietnam, and he brings that certainly to the experience at Marriott, as well as the book, which came out in March, but there's so much interest all the time. I mean, in the last week, look at what's happened in the Dominican Republic, and people have been dying.
I know. It's crazy.
In hotels, unknown why, but before you travel, check the State Department advisories. See what's safe, what's not. We have to be much more vigilant today than ever before. If you're sitting at a restaurant, as I was, having coffee outside in Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago, I noticed that there was a suitcase left on the corner. I wasn't the first person to notice it. Somebody else called the police in. Police came, checked it out. They were able to look into it. There was nothing inside. And I went out after and said, just a curious question, because I write in this area. You didn't have any bomb-sniffing dogs, no bomb squads coming over. And he said, the officer said, we would have if we had not been able to look in, but if we had not been able to look in, we would have had to close down 4 blocks in either direction, be helicopters overhead, everyone would be evacuated. And fortunately, this was one time that we could actually look in and see.
Wow. Well, we are coming up on our break, and looks like we might have Basile coming back. So when we come back, we'll have Basile. Maybe Ed will be able to join us. We shall see. And, of course, Gary Grossman, who's been giving us that rundown on Red Hotel. We'll be right back with a pinch of Basile.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Now back to the show.
Oh, we are indeed back with a pinch of Basile. I am finally back on the air, and it feels so good. I'd like to thank all the gremlins that have been attacking my computer and the internet system that I have. I want to help and say a big thank you to the Campbell Soup people for the 2 cans and a piece of string that go from here all the way to Reno, Nevada. I've been listening to Gary Grossman, and really, Janice has been doing a hell of a job, and I'm just going to call it, a pinch of Janice, because to be quite honest with you, I had
just doesn't have a good ring to it.
And right now, I'd rather shoot a shot of heroin in my rear end, to be quite honest with you, to relieve the pain that I'm going through right now, to be honest with you. Gary, I was so intrigued by everything you said. I love military suspense, anything. But the one question that I had as a creative cat myself is when you and Ed started writing, and Janice and I were talking about this a little bit earlier before you came on. When you're writing, you have control of the destiny of where you want to go. When you work with someone, and as much as you may respect and admire and all that, it may not be in the direction that you want to go. Do you guys ever get into loggerheads as to where the direction of the actual screenplay and or novel that you're writing? Do you guys ever have issues like that?
Great question. Let me just say, Ed People knows people who know people. So
I understand.
Really good idea.
And Ed is with us now, so he's on the phone with us now.
Hey,
so
Ed.
Go ahead, Gary. Take it from there.
The question was, how do we work together, and do we ever come into loggerheads? And really no, because we developed the story from the beginning. Ed shares his life with me, his experiences from the time he was growing up and when he was in college in Vietnam and on to his career. So the book Red Hotel is really based so much on his experiences, which gives it grounding. And then we develop the story together. But what happens after that is characters, sounds like a Twilight Zone episode, characters basically just knock on the door and say, hey, Ed, Gary, move over. I'm suddenly in your book. And that's the fun part too. That's absolute real excitement. But it's a great collaboration. And we have friends in common. We have Boston in common. I have my Marriott Miles, and it's just been the best collaborator I can imagine.
Well, Ed, welcome to the show. The things that Gary was saying, that it was basically all him who wrote this whole story, and he gave you so.
Hey, Basile, we lost Ed.
Oh,
he went away.
Kidding me. We lost Ed. Yeah, evidently the gremlins have gone
they're
to Ed.
after us. Yep.
This is craziest thing. I love writing, and I'm not saying I'm nowhere near your caliber of writing, but I will tell you, I love the idea of always adding a new character, and I love the ability because it changes the whole complexion of where you're going that direction, and it takes the reader into that, and they're like, okay, swoosh, I'm going to go in that direction with them. And that's got to turn you on so much when you write because I know when I get excited about coming up with an idea of going in a certain direction where you have creative control, I love that. And you must Jones on that.
Oh, it's a perfect way of describing it. It's the most exciting part. And I often describe writing novels as I don't write the first draft, the characters do. And I come in after and say, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we need to set something up a little earlier. And again, working with Ed, that's very, very easy because he'll, in the sequel to Red Hotel, which we're just finishing now, he said just about 2-3 months ago, I think we can get something in regarding Venezuela and what's going on with Venezuela and an experience I had. And he gave me the experience and I was just off and running with it. And then it just means you got to plant the seed early. You've got to present it in its long form where it belongs. And then what are the echoes of it further down the line? And it's a joy. And is Ed back on?
Not yet. No, he has not called back. So maybe he had a problem because the line kind of cut out on us. So I'm guessing something happened on his end.
Where is he at, by the way? Is he here at stateside?
Well, as far as I know, but he does travel to the Middle East and China a lot. But yes, just a little backstory, because I didn't even know that I was going to become a thriller writer. And I developed it kind of late in my career. Basically, I'm a TV producer by day. But my business partner and I at the time, Rob Weller and I were in New York pitching to the History Channel. And I remember the day exactly, because somebody in the meeting said, do you think we're running out of history? This was at the History Channel. And I said, no, we'll never run out of history. What makes it even more profound is that that day was September 10th, 2001.
Wow.
So when we drove back to Los Angeles, because we couldn't get a car, I began thinking about what TV shows could we do that would help us understand or put in perspective what we have gone through, what the nation went through. And in visiting people across the country, for the first time, I think many people realized, yes, New York is part of the United States. And I also thought, well, what can I do to explore that more? And that's when my thriller writing began. And working with Ed is the first time that I've ever had a collaboration. And that in itself was something I thought, well, what will it be like working with somebody? I've been the luckiest person to have the best writing partner for that regard in Red Hotel. And then there's going to be a sequel and then a third book that can come out of it, because the news is so nuts these days that I think sometimes it takes some real grounding in a thriller to say, what are our real and present dangers? What do we really need to worry about rather than all the noise that's filling the news?
I think some of the things that, we can look at, I always thought I would do well in plotting against the United States, but working for the government, because I live in an area in Wilmington, North Carolina, where we basically are a port of entry. And I'm always nervous in any port of entry where ships come in that you can have a container ship or a container and take a small amount of weapons grade plutonium that was made perhaps, I don't know, in Chechnya, and you blow it up with conventional dynamite, and just that alone as a dirty bomb, if you will, it actually create that city is you can't live there any longer. Just for the fact, and that's my biggest concern, because that small little golf ball size of plutonium can take out 50 square blocks of Manhattan, or render a small little town like Wilmington, North Carolina, and its importance to go ahead and take that. I always look for those types of opportunities, and I will look at something and go, this is where our military is at. This is, where we have a combination of the 82nd Airborne in Fayetteville, and then also Camp Lejeune over in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And everyone comes directly to Wilmington at the harbor there. People come, in and out. And I'm always concerned. If I were a terrorist, forget the major cities. Go to the secondary cities.
You're absolutely right. And after 9/11, the Pentagon and State Department, and I suspect to some degree the CIA as well, called in screenwriters and novelists. I did not yet become a novelist. They called screenwriters and novelists, thriller writers, James Bond writers, into Washington to say, what are we not thinking about that we should be thinking about? And taking a page from that, Ed and I think about the unthinkable. And if you think about, as you're describing, Basile, what is unthinkable, you can come up with what's plausible and, in fact, what may be right around the corner. And
so true.
We have got to be smarter. We've got to be smarter going to malls. We've got to be smarter going to movie theaters. We've got to be smarter when we're at restaurants and taking notice of people who leave packages. All of those things. So you're absolutely right. And by the way, what you're describing to some extent is the beginning of the sequel to Red Hotel. And it's also, if you remember, in the 1980s, there was a TV movie called Special Bulletin that was about Charleston. That was just that plot that you described.
It's simple because I always felt that situations like that, that's where the thrillers come from.
Hey, Basile, I need to interrupt you here because I want to make sure that Gary gets to tell everybody how to get the book and where.
Yes, please.
Okay. Bookstores for sure, but it's online at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. The book is Red Hotel, not The Red Hotel. It's Red Hotel, Gary Grossman and Ed Fuller. There's a wonderful Audible edition if you prefer Audible, but it's in hardcover, Kindle, and CD, and what else?
Boy, I think you got it all.
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
Gary, I got to tell you, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so sorry about the cluster of us having to get together, and poor Ed is still trying to probably call in. And Ed, I love you. I really do. But it's about that time that we close up shop. Can we have you back?
Love it. Absolutely.
I would love it as well. I would love to have you back because there's so much of what you and I have in common, and I'll tell you in a previous life of mine. But ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Gary Grossman and also Ed Fuller, who couldn't make it. Reminders, don't forget to listen every week on Tuesdays from 6 to 7 p.m. New York City time. You can be heard all around the world on AmericaMatters.us. If you're using the TuneIn app for the radio, just go to Pinch of Basile. Any questions, comments, go to Basile Fans on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or give me a call at 844-790-8255. Gary, thank you for joining me. God bless all of you. Have yourselves a great time. We'll see you soon. Peace.